Welcome to today's video. In this episode, I'll be breaking down every stage of narcissistic love into clear chapters: the good, the bad, and the ugly. If this topic is hitting close to home, if you recognize pieces of your own experience in what we're about to explore, then please consider hitting that subscribe button. This channel is all about shining a light on psychology, relationships, and healing. And by subscribing, you'll not only stay connected, but you'll also find tools and insights that can help you move forward. Now let's dive in. Chapter 1: Love Bombing Stage. It always begins beautifully. Almost too beautifully. Imagine this. You've been swiping through dating apps for weeks, maybe months, exhausted by the endless cycle of small talk and ghosting. Then one evening, there's a match that feels different. His profile isn't just pictures of shirtless gym selfies or vague motivational quotes. He has carefully curated snapshots, a picture with a dog, a candid laugh at a coffee shop, maybe even a thoughtful book on his nightstand. His first message isn't just "hey" or a lazy emoji. Instead, it's something sharp, personal. Your smile could make even Mondays bearable. It's flattering, but what's more surprising is the effort. He replies quickly, with full sentences. He remembers little details you mentioned in passing: the name of your favorite coffee order, the podcast you're hooked on, the stress you've been under at work. Within a week, your phone is buzzing constantly. Good morning texts, good night messages, random memes in the middle of the day. It feels like someone has finally seen you. Within days, he escalates. He calls you special, different from anyone else. You are the person he's been waiting for. He says things people usually reserve for months into dating, like, "I feel like I've known you forever," or "You're exactly the kind of partner I've dreamed about." And when you hesitate because it feels too fast, he reassures you. When you know, you know. There are FaceTime calls that last until 2 a.m., where you laugh until your cheeks hurt. He sends you a Spotify playlist he made just for you, full of love songs that make your stomach flip. A bouquet arrives at your office one afternoon with no warning, just a note: "Couldn't stop thinking of you." Your coworkers tease you, and you blush, secretly thrilled. Friends tell you to slow down, that it's moving quickly, but you brush it off. Isn't this what love is supposed to feel like? Sweeping, effortless, consuming? After all, you've been through half-hearted dates and people who couldn't be bothered to text back. Compared to that, this feels like a miracle. He mirrors everything about you. If you say you love a certain movie, it's suddenly his favorite too. If you share a childhood story, he swears he's experienced something similar. It's like staring into a soulmate-shaped mirror. When you mention your struggles with self-doubt, he swoops in with admiration. "I can't believe someone as amazing as you doesn't see how incredible you are. You're the most beautiful, intelligent, and kind person I've ever met." And you believe him, because the attention isn't casual, it's relentless. Text notifications ping during your meetings, little heart emojis pepper your phone when you're out with friends. If you don't reply fast enough, he notices, teasing, "Too busy for me already?" But it comes with a wink and a smiley face, so you laugh it off. It doesn't feel like pressure, not yet. When you do spend time together in person, it's dizzying. He stares at you like you're the only person in the room. He showers you with affection, kisses on the forehead, lingering hugs, whispered promises of forever. Even after just a few weeks, he talks about a future, vacations together, moving in, marriage. One night, over dinner, he casually mentions how he could see you as the mother of his children. Your heart races, because isn't that what everyone is looking for? A partner who knows what they want? Love bombing thrives on speed. It's a whirlwind that keeps you from thinking too hard. The dopamine rush of constant praise, the fireworks of being adored, make you feel like you've stumbled into a fairy tale. You find yourself rearranging your schedule just to see him. Sleep becomes optional when you're caught up in 3 a.m. conversations about destiny and fate. But if you looked closer, there are fate red flags brushed aside. dismissed as quirks. The intensity that feels flattering is also consuming. The soulmate talk, the big promises so early on, the constant need to connect, they're not just romance. They're hooks. Subtle, shiny hooks designed to pull you deeper before you even realize you've been caught. Yet, in this moment, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about how alive you feel, how the world seems brighter, how finally, after years of disappointments, someone has chosen you fully, fiercely, without hesitation. It feels like love, but it's really the opening act of a performance, one carefully scripted by someone who knows exactly how to make you addicted to the spotlight of their attention.
Chapter 2. Devaluation begins. Every whirlwind has its calm-down moment, but in this kind of relationship, the shift isn't gentle. It's subtle, almost invisible at first, a change in temperature you can't quite put your finger on. One day, the texts slow down. Where he used to flood your phone with good morning messages and thinking of you notes, now he takes hours to reply. When you ask if something's wrong, he says he's just busy, and you nod, because of course people get busy. Still, there's a pang of confusion. Just last week, he was staying up until 2 a.m. to talk. His compliments shift too. In the beginning, he told you that you were flawless, the most beautiful person he'd ever seen. Now he starts making jokes at your expense. At dinner, he teases you about your appetite. "Wow, you're going to eat all that?" And laughs like it's harmless. You laugh too, but later, when you're alone, the comment sticks. This becomes a pattern, a remark about how long it takes you to get ready, a backhanded compliment about your job. I mean, it's cute that you're passionate about it, even if it doesn't pay much. When you push back, he insists you're too sensitive. "Relax, babe, it's just a joke. You know I love you." Social media, once the stage for his grand displays of affection, now becomes a source of anxiety. He used to tag you in posts, post couple photos, leave heart emojis under your pictures. Now he barely engages, but you notice him liking other people's selfies, especially ones that feel a little too flirty. When you bring it up, he sighs, frustrated. Are you really going to be that insecure? It's just Instagram. The very person who once made you feel cherished now makes you feel needy for wanting reassurance. You start questioning yourself. Were you too clingy when you asked why he didn't text back? Were you being dramatic when his jokes stung? Maybe your standards are too high. After all, no relationship stays in the honeymoon phase forever, right? You tell yourself it's normal, that you just have to adjust. But deep down, you feel the shift. The warmth you once basked in is cooling, like a spotlight dimming on stage. The attention that felt abundant now feels scarce, and you find yourself working harder to earn it back. You wear the outfit he once said he loved, hoping he'll notice. You plan dates, try to recreate the magic of those early weeks. Sometimes it works. He'll have moments of affection, reminding you of the person you fell for. He might even say, "See, this is why I love you." And in those moments, relief floods in. The old version of him peeks through, and you think, maybe it's just stress. Maybe things are fine. But the cracks widen. He starts comparing you to others. A coworker who always looks put together. An ex who never got jealous. A friend's girlfriend who just lets him be. The comparisons sting, but you swallow it, trying not to seem argumentative. Arguments creep in where laughter used to live. He criticizes your tone, your reactions, even your memory. "I never said that," he insists, when you clearly remember he did. You're imagining things. At first, you argue back, trying to prove yourself, but over time, the exhaustion sets in, and you stop. You let him win because peace feels easier than confrontation. Friends begin to notice changes in you. You make excuses for his absence when he bails on plans. You defend his behavior, saying he's just stressed, just tired, just busy. When someone hints that you deserve better, you bristle, because deep down you still believe in the version of him who once adored you. The man who sent flowers, who made playlists, who promised forever. That man has to still be in there, right? This is how devaluation works. It doesn't slam into you all at once. It seeps in, drop by drop, until you no longer trust your own sense of reality. You start blaming yourself for the cracks he created. You tell yourself that if you just love him harder, if you just prove your worth, maybe he'll go back to the way he was. And sometimes he does, briefly. He'll kiss you unexpectedly or send a sweet text out of the blue, just enough to remind you of the love you're chasing, just enough to keep you hooked. That's the cruel trick of it all. You're no longer in love with the person in front of you. You're in love with a memory, a ghost of who he pretended to be. But you don't know that yet. All you know is that something feels wrong, and you're willing to do anything to fix it.
Chapter 3. Control and Gaslighting. The shift from subtle cracks to full control is so gradual you barely notice it happening. At first, it looks like care, concern, maybe even love. But beneath the surface, it's control, carefully disguised. It starts small. He comments on your outfits. "You're really gonna wear that?" he asks with a smirk, not outright disapproval, but enough to make you hesitate. When you change into something else, he smiles, satisfied, and kisses your forehead. You don't realize it, but he's training you, teaching you that peace comes when you adjust to his preferences. Then it extends to your time. He used to encourage you to see your friends, but now he sighs when you mention a night out. "I just don't get why you'd rather be with them than me," he says, voice heavy with guilt. You cancel plans, choosing to stay in with him. At first, it feels like devotion, but soon your world starts shrinking. Friends drift away. Invitations stop coming. Your life begins to orbit only around him. Social media becomes another tool. He watches who likes your posts, questions who comments on your pictures. If you don't post about him enough, he accuses you of hiding the relationship. If you do, he nitpicks how you phrase the caption. Either way, you can't win. And when you bring up his own behavior, the flirty likes, the DMs from strangers he swears are just friends, he flips it back on you. You're paranoid. You're imagining things. Why are you always trying to start a fight? That's when the gaslighting digs in deep. Gaslighting is like a slow erosion of your reality. He denies things you're sure happened. "I never said that." "You must have misunderstood." Sometimes he insists you were the one who caused the fight. "You're overreacting. You're too emotional." At first you argue, desperate to prove your point, but after enough battles, you stop. You start to wonder if maybe he's right. Maybe your memory is flawed. Maybe you are too sensitive. One night you confront him about a text message you saw pop up on his phone, a heart emoji from someone you don't know. He explodes. Not with guilt, but with outrage. "Why are you going through my phone? Do you know how toxic that is? You're the problem here, not me." By the time you finish the fight, you're the one apologizing, promising to trust him more. He walks away the victor, leaving you spinning in self-doubt. The control isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent. He gives you the cold shoulder for hours, even days, without explaining why. You replay your last conversations in your head, desperate to figure out what you did wrong. When he finally speaks, you're so relieved that you apologize just to keep the peace, even if you don't know what you're apologizing for. That's the cycle. Silence, confusion, apology, temporary calm. You're trained to prioritize his emotions above your own because conflict feels unbearable. Friends and family notice changes in you. You've grown quieter, more anxious.
When they ask if everything's okay, you paste on a smile and say yes. Because how do you explain it? How do you put into words that the person who once made you feel adored now makes you doubt your own mind? Sometimes he still throws in affection, a sudden bouquet, a spontaneous road trip, a long hug that feels like the man you fell in love with has returned. And in those moments, your hope reignites. You think, this is the real him, this is who he really is, but those glimpses are rare. Crumbs scattered just often enough to keep you chasing. Gaslighting convinces you that the problem isn't him, it's you. It keeps you trapped in a maze of self-doubt where every wrong turn is somehow your fault. You become addicted to the rare moments of warmth, willing to endure the cold spells just to feel the sun again. It's not love anymore. It's survival. And you don't even realize you've already lost yourself in the process.
Chapter 4. Walking on Eggshells. By now, the relationship doesn't feel like falling in love anymore. It feels like balancing on a tightrope. Every step, every word, every choice, it could set him off. You don't know which version of him you're going to get when you wake up in the morning. It's like living with a storm cloud. Some days, the skies are clear. He's charming, affectionate, playful. Other days, the air is tense, thick with unspoken anger. You tiptoe around him, scanning his body language, his tone, even the silence between his words, trying to guess what mood he's in. You've learned to monitor yourself constantly. You reread your texts before sending them, making sure the tone won't be misinterpreted. You hesitate before speaking your mind, calculating whether honesty is worth the fight it might trigger. Even small decisions, what movie to watch, where to eat, feel like potential landmines. And when he does get upset, it happens fast. His voice sharpens, his eyes narrow, and suddenly you're scrambling to soothe him. You apologize quickly even when you don't know what you did wrong. It's easier to take the blame than to endure his anger or his silence. Walking on eggshells becomes second nature. You anticipate his reactions before he even has them. You avoid topics that might trigger him, his past relationships, his family, your needs. Your own wants and opinions shrink, folded neatly into the background because keeping the peace is more important than being heard. Sometimes you catch yourself feeling resentful, but then he reels you back in. Out of nowhere, he'll plan a romantic night, hold your hand in public, or tell you how much you mean to him. Those moments feel like sunlight after weeks of rain. They remind you of the person you met at the beginning, the one who made you feel like the center of the universe. And you cling to those glimpses, convincing yourself that if you just try hard enough, maybe the storm will pass for good. But the affection never lasts long. It's always followed by coldness, distance, or criticism. You start to wonder if you're doing something wrong to make him pull away. You replay every conversation in your head, obsessively analyzing where you might have messed up. Did I laugh at the wrong time? Did I forget to compliment him? Did I sound too needy when I asked about his day? The exhaustion seeps in. Your body feels it, the tension in your shoulders, the knot in your stomach, the headaches that come from constant stress. But you push through because you've become convinced that keeping him happy is the only way to keep the relationship alive. Friends notice you've changed. They say you're quieter, less confident. They miss the version of you who used to laugh freely, who had her own opinions, her own sparkle. But you barely recognize that person anymore. You've molded yourself to fit into the narrow space he's allowed you. And deep down, you're afraid. Afraid of his anger, yes, but also afraid of losing him. Because, despite everything, the bond feels unbreakable. That's the trap of trauma bonding. You confuse intensity for love. The highs and lows become addictive, like a roller coaster you can't get off of. Every sweet gesture feels like proof that the good times can come back if you just endure the bad. But you don't realize that you're not walking on eggshells to protect the relationship. You're walking on eggshells to protect yourself from him, from his criticism, his withdrawal, his unpredictable moods. And the more you bend yourself out of shape, the less of you is left. It's not about romance anymore. It's about survival.
about keeping the peace, about avoiding the storm at all costs. And in the process, you lose sight of the most important truth. Love isn't supposed to feel this way. But you're not ready to face that yet. You're too busy tiptoeing through a minefield, hoping that if you just keep your balance, maybe, just maybe, the love you once knew will return.
Chapter 5. The Discard. The end doesn't come the way you expect it. There's no dramatic showdown, no tearful goodbye where everything is explained. It comes like a rug pulled out from under you. Sudden, disorienting, cruel in its finality. One day things seem fine, maybe even good. You've just spent the weekend together, curled up watching movies, laughing like things were almost back to normal. He kissed you on the forehead before leaving, told you he loved you, and you breathed easier, thinking the storm had finally passed. Then, days later, you notice the shift. His texts grow shorter, colder. The calls stop altogether. You see him online, active, but your messages go unanswered. The same man who once flooded your phone with constant attention now acts like you don't exist. At first you assume he's just busy. Work stress, family issues, something temporary. You send lighthearted messages to check in. No response. Hours turn into days, days into weeks. When he finally does reply, it's blunt. I just don't think this is working anymore. That's it. No explanation. No acknowledgement of the love, the memories, the nights spent talking until dawn. Just a casual dismissal, like you were never significant. Sometimes it's even colder. Some victims discover the discard not through a breakup conversation, but through Instagram, seeing their partner suddenly posting photos with someone new, or through whispers from mutual friends. Did you know he's seeing someone else? The betrayal cuts deep, not just because he's moved on, but because he makes it look effortless, as if you were nothing more than a placeholder until someone better came along. The most devastating part isn't just the rejection, it's the contrast. How can someone go from worshiping you, promising forever, to dropping you like a burden? You replay the beginning in your head. The flowers, the playlists, the whispered promises. Were those lies? Was any of it real? Your mind spins with questions you'll never get answered. Did he ever love you? Did you do something to drive him away? If you had just been better, more patient, more attractive, less emotional, would he have stayed? This is the cruel design of the discard. It's not just abandonment. It's a psychological weapon. By ending things so abruptly, so heartlessly, he plants doubt in your mind, ensuring the blame shifts inward. He doesn't just leave you, he makes you feel like you were never worth staying for. And while you're spiraling, he thrives. Narcissists often line up replacements long before the discard. He's already moved on to his next source of admiration, leaving you stunned and empty. Seeing him happy with someone new, posting the same captions, sending the same flowers, saying the same soulmate lines, is like watching your love story recycled, as if it was never unique at all. The pain isn't just heartbreak, it's humiliation. You find yourself rereading old texts, scrolling through pictures, searching for clues of when things began to change. Your mind refuses to accept it because how do you go from being someone's forever to being disposable? Friends try to comfort you. You're better off without him. He was toxic. But their words don't sink in because they didn't live through the highs. They don't understand that you're not just grieving the loss of a partner. You're grieving the loss of a fantasy, of a version of him that felt so real, so intoxicating, that you can't believe it was ever fake. You're left with silence. No closure, no answers. Just a void where once there was constant noise, good mornings, late-night calls, laughter, promises. The quiet is deafening. And in that silence, the most dangerous thought creeps in.
Maybe if I reach out, he'll come back. Maybe if I prove myself, I'll be worth loving again. That's the hook of the discard. It's not just about ending the relationship. It's about leaving you so starved for the love you once had that you'd do anything to feel it again, even if it means stepping right back into the cycle that broke you. The days after the discard feel like wandering through a fog. You wake up and instinctively check your phone, expecting the familiar "good morning" text that used to be waiting for you. But the screen is blank. Hours pass and the silence gnaws at you. The very absence of his presence feels louder than any words. At first, you try to rationalize it. He just needs space. He'll come back. This can't be the end after everything we shared. You scroll through old conversations, rereading the paragraphs where he told you how much he loved you, how he couldn't imagine his life without you. Those words feel like a lifeline now, proof that you weren't imagining it all. But then you see him online, posting, smiling, liking other people's photos. Maybe even flaunting a new relationship. The pit in your stomach deepens. It feels like you've been erased, replaced. Friends tell you to block him, delete his number, cut ties completely, but you can't. Every part of you aches for the dopamine rush of his attention, the hit of validation you once had on tap. You stalk his socials, convincing yourself you're just checking in, but really, it's like scratching a wound that won't heal. Each picture, each post is another knife twist. This is trauma bonding. The cycle of love and abuse has rewired your brain. The love bombing created a high so intoxicating that now, in its absence, your body craves it like an addict craves a drug. Even the pain doesn't stop the craving. In fact, the contrast makes it worse. The memory of the highs makes the lows unbearable, and you'll do anything to get that high again. You find yourself bargaining. If I reach out first, maybe he'll respond. If I show him I've changed, maybe he'll love me again. You draft texts you never send, stare at the typing bar for minutes, then erase the words. Sometimes you cave in and hit send anyway. If he replies, it's curt, dismissive. If he doesn't, the silence feels like rejection all over again. Nights are the hardest. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in your mind like a broken film reel. The first kiss, the late-night calls, the inside jokes that now feel hollow. You wonder when it all shifted. Was there a specific moment? Was there something you did? The questions loop endlessly, keeping you awake long after midnight. Your self-esteem plummets. You start to believe his words, that you were too sensitive, too clingy, too much. You criticize yourself for not being good enough to keep him. Even your reflection feels foreign. Where you once saw confidence, now you see someone diminished, smaller. And yet, despite the pain, a part of you still longs for him. That's the cruel paradox of trauma bonding. You know he hurt you, but you still miss him. The same person who shattered you is the one you believe can fix you. You cling to the hope that if you just endure this agony, he might come back with the love you remember. But each time you think you're healing, something pulls you back. A song you shared comes on the radio. A notification reminds you of a memory from a year ago. Or worse, he sends a breadcrumb, a random text like, "Hope you're doing okay," or a like on an old photo. Your heart leaps, interpreting it as proof that he still cares. But it's not love. It's a hook, pulling you back into the orbit of his control. The aftermath isn't just heartbreak, it's psychological captivity. You're trapped in a loop of longing and despair, unable to move forward because part of you is still chained to the illusion of what you thought you had.
Chapter 7. Reflection and Awakening. Healing never comes in a straight line. At first, it feels impossible to picture a future without him. Every corner of your life feels marked by his shadow. The restaurants you used to visit,
the songs you shared, the way you still expect his name to light up your phone. But little by little, cracks of light start to slip through the darkness. It begins with research. One night, unable to sleep, you type words into a search bar. Why do I miss someone who treated me badly? The results pour in. Articles, forums, videos, all describing a pattern eerily familiar. Love bombing, devaluation, gaslighting, discard, trauma bond. Words you didn't have before now give shape to your pain. You start reading obsessively, not because you want to wallow, but because you're desperate for answers. Each paragraph feels like someone has been watching your life and taking notes. The phrases he used, "You're too sensitive," "You're imagining things," "You're lucky to have me," appear in countless stories from other survivors. For the first time, you realize it wasn't just me. I'm not crazy. This is what they do. There's power in that realization. The shame begins to loosen its grip. Instead of blaming yourself, you start to see the manipulation for what it was: calculated, deliberate, textbook. You remember the intensity of the love bombing, the flowers, the playlists, the declarations of forever, and recognize it as a tactic, not a truth. He didn't fall in love faster than anyone else. He used intensity to hook you. It hurts to admit, but it also liberates. Because if it was a tactic, then it wasn't your failure when it ended. It wasn't because you weren't enough. It was because you were caught in a cycle designed to break you. Slowly, the fog clears. You begin to reflect on the version of yourself you lost along the way, the laughter you muted, the opinions you silenced, the friendships you let fade. You start asking harder questions. Why did I accept so little? Why did I believe love had to hurt? The answers aren't easy, but they are necessary. They peel back layers of your own wounds, the old insecurities, the craving for validation, the fear of abandonment that made you vulnerable to his games. Therapy helps if you're brave enough to walk into that room. Or maybe it's long conversations with a trusted friend who doesn't judge, who reminds you of who you were before him. Journaling, too, becomes a lifeline, spilling the chaos of your thoughts onto paper where you can see them clearly, instead of letting them spiral endlessly in your head. The awakening isn't just intellectual, it's emotional. You begin to feel anger, not the destructive kind, but the clarifying kind. Anger that you were manipulated, anger that your kindness was used against you, anger that he stole so much of your energy, your confidence, your joy. That anger is a spark, and it lights the fire of your healing. One day, you see a photo of him with someone new. Instead of collapsing, you study it with new eyes. The smile, the captions, the declarations of soulmate, they're the same script he used on you. And for the first time, you don't feel jealous. You feel pity, because you know how that story ends. That's the true awakening, realizing it was never about you. He didn't discard you because you were lacking. He discarded you because that's what narcissists do. They consume, deplete, and move on to the next. You weren't the problem. You were the target. This reflection doesn't erase the pain overnight. There are still nights when the memories sneak in, when a song makes you cry, when you miss the version of him that never really existed. But now those feelings are tempered with knowledge. You remind yourself, I miss the illusion, not the reality. I miss the mask, not the man. And with each reminder, your grip on the past loosens. Slowly, you begin to imagine a future where you are no longer defined by what he did to you, but how you rise from it. The awakening isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet, a steady whisper growing stronger each day. I deserved better. I still do. And next time, I will choose differently.
Chapter 8. Rebuilding self. Healing doesn't happen overnight. At first, rebuilding feels like learning how to walk again after forgetting the steps. Your identity was so wrapped up in the relationship, in the highs of the love bombing and the lows of the discard, that when it all crumbled, you felt like there was nothing left. But slowly, piece by piece, you begin to rediscover yourself. The first step is the hardest: cutting off contact. You unfollow him on social media, delete the old pictures, block his number. At first, your finger hovers over the block button, trembling with hesitation. What if he reaches out? What if he apologizes? What if, just maybe, he really changes this time? But then you remember the cycle: love bomb, devalue, discard, and how each return only reset the wheel. With a deep breath, you block him. The silence that follows is terrifying, but also freeing. For the first time in months, maybe years, you have space to hear your own thoughts. You start filling that space with small things that once brought you joy. The coffee shop you stopped visiting because it reminded you of him. The playlist of songs you avoided because they carried too many memories. Even picking up old hobbies. Painting, running, journaling feels like reclaiming lost pieces of yourself. There's a strange beauty in these small victories. Cooking dinner without criticism, laughing with friends without guilt, wearing an outfit because you love it, not because it fits his idea of perfect. Each act, though ordinary, becomes an act of rebellion against the control he once held. Then comes the deeper work: boundaries. For so long, you believed love meant sacrificing, accommodating, forgiving endlessly. Now you're learning that true love requires balance. You practice saying no. You recognize red flags faster. You no longer excuse disrespect as just how someone is. It's not about building walls. It's about protecting your peace. Therapy, self-help books, support groups, these become guides on your journey. But more than anything, time is your greatest healer. The further you move from the chaos, the more clearly you see it for what it was. What once felt like a passionate, once-in-a-lifetime romance now reveals itself as a manipulation machine. That realization doesn't erase the scars, but it empowers you to stop letting them define you. Some days you still ache. Healing isn't linear. There are nights when loneliness creeps in, when memories replay like movies, when you wonder if you'll ever fully trust again. But you remind yourself, pain is temporary, lessons are permanent. Each scar is proof that you survived what was meant to destroy you. And slowly, new dreams begin to form. You start envisioning relationships built on respect, kindness, and authenticity. You set standards, not impossibly high, but grounded in self-worth. You promise yourself never to confuse intensity with intimacy, chaos with love, or control with care. And there we have it, the good, the bad, and the ugly of narcissistic love. If parts of this story felt all too familiar, remember, you're not alone. Awareness is the first step toward healing, and every chapter after the ugly can be one of reflection, rebuilding, and thriving. If you found this video helpful, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps this channel continue creating content on psychology, relationships, and personal growth. Until next time, take care of your heart, protect your peace, and keep moving forward.